Hello everyone, welcome to Avocado Sprint 60 release meeting. Today we're gonna talk about, as always, initially the cards that we accomplished during this week. So let's use our Trello board for that, as always. So we have in done a few interesting work items. The first one is by Lukash. It's about breaking the limit that we previously had about the avocado job having one temporary directory which was limited per interpreter execution, so you could not have two jobs at the same time. This limitation was removed. Lukash, do you want to mention what went on here?
Yeah, maybe one note. Basically, we had a global variable data avocado.utils. Avocado core dot data there dot get tmp there. We preserved this one, so you can still get per application shared directory, like temporary directory. But if you use job tmp there, the job tmp there is actually inside this directory, so you can create as many jobs as you want to, and they don't share the same tmp there.
Nice. So there should be no breakage to current users of that core API, and we do know of like Avocado VT makes use of those, so there should be no breakage. They could still leverage this and make their like Avocado own jobs like better, but there shouldn't be any breakage. And that's about it. We had some work. First, initially, some reports from Lukash about the poor performance of Avocado when running jobs with really large sets of tests, like on the range of 5,250, 2,500 tests on some occasions. So Amador took the task to take a look at it, profile like find the low-hanging fruits. He did find one case, which was easy optimization that actually resulted in much better memory usage, which was work on this card. And this is a pull request. It was about removing the instance of Avocado frames, which was part of every single test result. So the changes were applied, and Amador actually has some more information and even numbers and graphs showing the positive changes that these changes brought.
Yes, the point here is that we are accumulating the results of each test throughout the Avocado job. And while that accumulation of statistics is quite important because we have to generate the results in different result formats at the end of the job, while it's important, still we have room for optimization. And with this pull request, the goal here was to reduce the amount of data provenient from the parameters object. Before this pull request, we were keeping the parameters object as is with the full-blown object inside the test results structure. And with this pull request, what I did was to replace these full-blown objects to a parsed version of it. And with that in place, only by changing that object from an object to a parsed version of it, it reduced drastically the amount of memory we are keeping throughout the Avocado job. I have some graphs here to demonstrate, to show one use case on how that improved the situation. Let me share my screen. Okay, so in this first graph here, this is the graph on memory growing during an Avocado job. This graph was created with an Avocado job executing 5,000 pass tests. And if you take a look at the beginning of the graph, you see that the Avocado starts running the tests with allocating between 90 and 100 megabytes of memory. And as the job goes and as the tests are executed one by one and we keep accumulating the results, after 5,000 pass tests, the accumulated of memory usage goes between 300 and 310 megabytes. There is a peak at the very end, but this peak is due to the different file formats for the different results. But the main point here is that the memory allocation for this job, it grew from 96, 97 megabytes all the way to 300 something megabytes. And by changing only that object that I was mentioning in that pull request, the new graph we have after that is something way more flat. This is the graph generated after the pull request applied. It goes from the same point in the beginning, from 96 megabytes, around 96, 97 megabytes in the beginning, to only 106 megabytes by the end of the job, with the same peak after that, but that's for a different reason. So with only that small optimization, we could achieve a big result already. Of course, there is some room for improvement. There still has a growth in place, and still we have this peak at the end. But right now, we improved a lot the memory allocation throughout the job. Yep, that's it.
Very well. Thanks a lot. So continuing with the cards that we delivered completely during this week, we had Avocado RPM package for Python 3. So this was one of the goals that we had set on the previous sprint for this one regarding to Python 3. Right now, you get on upstream Avocado, if you do make RPM and you're running on Fedora, you should be able to get, so there was some prep work, which is this pull request I just opened, and then the real addition of Python 3 packaging for Avocado. If you're running Avocado from upstream on a Fedora machine, you should be able to just run make RPM, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. The two builds will run from side to side, actually one after the other on the same job. So we're using the same spec file, which is the recommended way. So you can see now that we're running the Python 2 version of the self-test during this build. And after that, it's gonna do the same thing for Python 3. And in the end, you're gonna have Python 3 versions of most plugins and the base package, not all plugins, because of package requirements and dependencies. But the base package is there, and now you see the Python 3 test running, and that's about it. You should be able to install both packages on the system in parallel if you really need to do so. But of course, you probably want to just choose your version. And right now, if you don't have a strong reason for using Python 3 version, you should probably stay with Python 2 because it has all the plugins and it's just more tested and stable at this point. So this was about Python 3 packaging. Next card was about broken Python 2.6 check on Avocado VT. So the title here is a bit misleading. What went on here is that we did have this card in which we had failures on Travis on the Avocado VT side of things. After some discussions, we decided that we should drop Python 2.6 support from Avocado VT to make way for Python 3, which is already underway. So this card was about actually dropping the check that was once broken and then enabling on the second commit the Python 3 checks with the caveat that they do allow failures because the port is still far from complete. So something else to do. Next one is robot has syntax issues under Python 3. This was actually not really an Avocado issue, but since we have a plugin that allows people to run robot framework tests, and we do declare that as a dependency in that plugin, in our CI logs, or even if you did a make develop or make link, if you're developing Avocado, you would see syntax errors. So we reported those to the project itself. The tricky part here on their behalf was that this code is only supposed to be run when run under the IronPython or Jython interpreters, and those interpreters are only at version 2, so they do not support Python 3 like as the language. So to them, it made no sense to port this to a Python 3 syntax. So what they did was kind of a way to make the errors go away, which was through an exact syntax. Anyway, on our side, you can, on their side, you can debate whether that was the best choice or not. But on our side, we should stop seeing the build errors when pulling the robot framework packages. Next item was the deprecation of sourcedir. So we had a long discussion uh, about the real goal of sourcedir. It turns out it was more or less an automatic uh, attribute that we brought from the auto test ways, the auto test way of doing things. And to be honest, in Avocado we have worked here, which serves the same purpose. So after a long discussion, we came to the conclusion that sourcedir should go. And this is the first stage of it. So sourcedir is now deprecated. It still exists. One interesting aspect of this deprecation work is that if you actually access sourcedir, you have tests that will end as warnings. So you still get the past results if you output in formats such as xunit, tab. It's still going to be a pass, but if you're running on Avocado, you're going to see the warning. So the definition of warning on Avocado is a successful test that has something that you should pay attention to. So that was the first stage of the deprecation of sourcedir. And we do expect we have a date and time set to the removal of sourcedir, which is next May 11th. So if you start get warnings and if you have been using sourcedir, please go ahead and stop doing so before we completely remove it. Next one was actually not the deprecation, but the removal of a previously deprecated method, test method, which is skip. So we have deprecated it for a long time. We have had it deprecated for a long time, and at this time we went ahead and really removed the test. So skip is something that it's only supposed to be used as a decorator, never inside a test. So with this change, we had some cleanups in the logic when we run the test method. So we should not have to deal with that inside the test method itself. And also in the teardown, it should not be allowed. So skip does not exist anymore as a test method. And of course, we updated the documentation, and we also sent, if I understand correctly, some updates, so tests, and also to Avocado MISC tests. We sent updates both for the skip removal and also for the source theory deprecation. So this is, oh, and there was another one. So on this release, we also removed another set of features which were already deprecated, and those were related to the MOOCs. So we used to have those options as filter out, filter only, and and books, if I remember correctly. And we have now actually YAML, and we have been having already the preferred way of using those with the MOOCs prefix, and now we have dropped the old ones. So filter only, filter out without the MOOCs prefix have gone, and dash dash multiplex have has also been removed, and we should be using MOOCs YAML. So this is, so you can see a lot of cleanups and removals on this release. So this is what was considered completely done. So the full scope of the cards were delivered. We have been working on a bunch of other stuff, which is still in progress or partially already merged. So we have a few examples here. Uh, Python 3 and Python 2 default encoding handling. So with the ports to Python 3, we spent a lot of time doing uh, coming up with a sane approach of dealing with um, strings and bytes and Unicodes and the different encodings on both Python 2 and Python 3, which happen to be ASCII on Python 2 and UTF-8 on Python 3. So Lukács found a regression. We came up with different approaches of solving this. In the end, we merged a bunch of commits of his original series and a modified version of another commit, and then one final commit which allowed uh, for Avocado to define the default encoding that itself as an application is going to use. There's still some discussions uh, on if we should attempt or set a default encoding based on various system probes, like Lukács has suggested, get file system encoding from Python, reverting back to other probes. But at this stage, we have defined one file which says that by default, Avocado itself as the application, not as the utility library, will use UTF-8 as encoding, and that has been applied to the execution of process and consequently in the execution of tests, which was the original issue that was to be solved here. So Lukács found this situation. So the situation, which was a regression, which is a test that was generating non-ASCII characters would actually crash Avocado because Avocado would try to decode that using the default encoding, which was ASCII, and would fail to do so. So this is a fix. There was actually an issue that was caused by another commit that was merged before, after this was proposed and after it was merged. And there's a hot fix here. Uh, I'm not sure if, oh yeah, so Amador has already commented on this. So there's a hot fix. We found an issue that was brought in by, as I said before, a commit that was merged after this was proposed.
I'm sorry, I didn't test the pull request. I just
Okay.
took a look on it, but the only thing I noticed that you are pointing the incorrect commit as the one that broke the check and so on. So there's it's a different one I pointed out in my comment, but other than that,
You're right.
looks like
You're right.
it's good.
All right.
I'm
I'll
pointing
update
the
that.
right one in the comment.
Absolutely. Let me just double check. Yes, sir. Yes, that's the right one. So I'll update that commit, and if it goes well to review, it should be related to that and should be a hot fix to the issue we just mentioned. Locage has started working on this avocado vert bug. I don't think there are any updates there.
Well,
We
basically, I found the issue. It's not in Avocado code, but I still need to see what we can do. I mean, it's in Fabric and Paramiko handling.
Okay. So next one is more, we are keeping track of those last few issues that affect the Python 3 version, the Python 3 port of Avocado. We think that the latest fixes could have solved some of those. There are also some work in progress that fix a bunch of other tests. So yeah, this is really work in progress. Another card that saw some work, but we cannot still call it done. It's actually pretty comprehensive. It's to enable all types of warnings in the CI jobs and make check. So all the links should be run with all warnings enabled. At this time, we enabled 4 different checks. They brought a good deal of fixes and nice changes. So hopefully we have less bugs or less potential for bugs and better code style in Avocado. We enabled 4 different checks, warning checks at this time. Another area in which we got some work done, but still there are few tidbits to finish, have to do with AXPEC packaging, and this has to do with also a fix to make AXPEC also work with Python 3 and the binary version of the helper, the version script of the AXPEC helper should be present in the packaging. So we took the time to sync the Fedora and EPEL packages, which are way better than what we have here in upstream. So there's a bunch of commits syncing those and also syncing the way we use a lot of makefile targets in Avocado, syncing that to expect as well. So this and the next one, Python 3 expect, are related to packaging expect. And this one is being dealt with in the EPEL in the Fedora and EPEL sources, so in the Fedora project, and is of course going to be replicated in Avocado in AExpect itself. Next one is define and improve source of test parameters. This is mostly proof of I have basically a very simplistic proof of concept at this point. The proof of concept uses ini style files to use parameters. It breaks compatibility as a proof of concept, so there's still a number of challenges here. One is associating tests with files that contain parameters for those tests, and this requires knowledge about the test itself. And we do want the test to not have any knowledge about parameters. The test parameters should be provided by the test runner. So there is this kind of deadlock there that we have to solve among other issues. But stay tuned, this is something that we'll be working on a lot in this spring. I think from this point on, it was basically stuff that we didn't progress too much on this sprint. Avocado check PR is, I just found out that it was not working for me. It is a utility that we can use to check the individual commits and post the results to GitHub. For some reason, it's not working for me, and it's kept here as a way to troubleshoot and fix the issue. We've had a number of tests being left on the Python 3 tests. Um, we fixed a lot of them, so we were consistently getting both on Travis and on local systems directories being left behind. Right now, it happens every now and then on Travis only. So we did tackle probably most of them, but there's still some hidden issues there. And a few number of other cards which are longer running tasks, some associated with different projects. The partial list of LTS related changes has a version 1 being proposed, which we are deciding on how to deal with. So that's it for Sprint 60. And what also went on Sprint 60 but was not completely done, which is going to become Sprint 61, codename 7 pounds. We already have a name. So any comments from any of you guys? So just as
Nothing here.
okay, so just as extra small kind of demo, this is the results of the RPM that I was running before when I was demoing the Python 3 packages. So as I said before, there is now a Python common package that contains configuration files that are common across uh, both versions. So you will only get one configuration file if you have both Python 2 and Python 3 versions of Avocado, which are here. And of course, only one version of the examples and bash packages. And finally, you would get, for some plugins, you'll get Python 2 and Python 3 versions. And for some plugins, like the runner, remote, VM, Docker, because of Fabric and other limitations, we don't have those packages yet. Um, as RTMs. So let me get back to the Trello board and we'll be going briefly with regards to what we plan to work on. So we have already mentioned the stuff that we are still working on my personal plate. I still have a number of Python 3 related things to fix. These are tracked here, and the parameters overhaul or new implementation is something that I'll be working on. Besides that, as always, we have moved all bugs that we have identified to the top of the Spring backlog. So we are aware of at least 3 bugs. And besides that, we have 2 new cards which were added during this sprint. They are also kind of related to the optimization of Avocado on large jobs. So uh, maybe Lukash can just mention what he went through when running big jobs and the reason for those 2 cards.
Well, I mean, there are just like some minor improvements, like using generation instead of storing huge data, etc. So you will see it hopefully in the next sprint.
Right, and also limiting the amount of data that may come
Oh,
out
yeah.
on outputs such as XUnit. So yeah, and other than that, we have a card that was left from the previous sprint. So interesting enough, on the sprint, we do have a lot of things in the work in progress, which are actively being worked, but we had very little cards left in the sprint backlog. So this is how the next sprint will probably look like. A continuation of the work we mentioned here, and then those, and of course, like contributions from the community and, and things we cannot foresee will probably make its way into version 61. So, any last remarks? So stay tuned. We are dealing with the hotfix we mentioned before. After that is reviewed and solved, we'll be publishing the test results for that specific version, like a complete uh, test set that we go through, including manual tests and integration with Avocado VT and other plugins. And then we'll proceed onto packaging and releasing and tagging Avocado version 60. So I think that's all. Thanks for attending and expect to see Avocado 60 released shortly. Thanks very much. Bye bye.